Greetings. Today I want to talk to you about the seduction community. There is a big, I guess maybe, sub-market of individuals and, well, let's say providers and consumers of content around this idea of seduction, of trying to entice women into having sex. And so this is primarily a masculine market. And in the old direct response marketing venue, they talk about kind of the big four of marketing content, and that's one, getting laid, getting paid, not dying, and hobbies. Like, those are the four big ones. So evidently, there's obviously a lot of young men that are kind of wound up and concerned about, trying to have sex, and they think that if they can break through that perceived ceiling, they'll somehow be better. But in all seriousness, I think it's really just a bunch of delusion. So, the Black's Law definition of seduction is the act of seducing, the act of a man enticing a woman to have unlawful intercourse with him by means of persuasion, solicitation, promises, bribes, or other means without employment of force. So I guess it's just shy of rape. Here's the definition of seduce. This is coming from Black's Law, 4th edition. It says to induce to surrender chastity, to induce to surrender chastity, to lead away or astray. And that's the key. To lead astray, to mislead. The reality is that I think every young woman has a princess fantasy. She wants to be wooed. She wants to go through a courtship phase. She wants to feel that feeling of going through and not knowing what's going to happen in the relationship. You should go and read your standard romance novel to get an idea of how women think, because those romance novels, those are kind of pornography for women, but it'll give you an idea of how women think. They want a man who's busy, who's got things going on, and they don't want to be the center stage of his life. A woman, if you put a woman on a pedestal, it's going to lead to issues. You have to make God the center of your life, and your mission, as you believe God gave to you, as your central. And your wife is along for the ride to help out. Okay? But that's another video. We're here talking about seduction, and I've been around a while, and I'll be honest with you, I fell into the seduction community probably like a decade ago, and looked at it, watched it, consumed some of the content. I even invested in a couple of programs, and I think there was value in those programs in that they taught me to think more highly of myself. But the issue is, like, it seemed like the whole point of self-improvement for a lot of these gurus was in order to find a woman to have sex with. And one of the things that you'll note is that a lot of these seduction folks, they're not in the United States of America. They're not in Europe. Well, maybe some of them are in Europe, more like Eastern Europe. But, not many of them are in England. Not many of them are in the United States of America. Not many of them are in Australia either. And I think a lot of these countries that I mentioned, trust is more central. These are trust-based countries. This is how these countries became world superpowers or first world countries, you know? They became first world countries based on trust, societal trust, trust between individuals, trust with society. And yeah, sure, you can argue all you want about, oh, you know, you can't trust any politician in America today. I'll give you that. But at some point, there was some trust built up in this society to create these countries that we have today. And a lot of these seduction guys, they're out in third world countries like, you know, Brazil, or, you know, some far eastern places in like Asia. And they are seducing locals. So this is not good. And I think if you notice a lot of these, you know, companies like the Real Social Dynamics, I don't even think they're in business anymore. They went out of business because their entire model is based on it's based on misleading. You know, you're misleading women. And I'm not, you know, I'm not standing up for women. I'm not saying that women are saints. They, you know, they come with their own issues as well. But I think what happens with seduction is, I think, you know, people, I think if you're actually paying attention, if you're in the seduction community, you realize that what's really here? There's nothing here. There's no substance. Nothing's created from these interludes. This is just, again, people being in this morass, this swamp of sexual energy, of misplaced sexual energy. So most all of these seduction companies and these teachers, these dating teachers, these dating gurus, they're fly by night, because fundamentally they are teaching men how to be fornicators, to be sinners. And no, I know, you know, having sex outside of wedlock, fornication, it's not one of the big 10. It's not a violation of the 10 commandments. But you know what? It leads to long-term pain and suffering. So I really recommend that if you're a young man, you stay away from this garbage. My mission is to be here in 20, 30 years, because I'm teaching you the biblical law. I'm teaching you God's law of the genders. So if you want to learn how to find your soulmate, find a good woman or a good man, depending on your gender, I want you to visit the link below and sign up and get a free copy of my book, The Sex Education You Never Received, and that's going to help you find the proper life companion, spouse, husband or wife. So that's it for this video. As always, the light in me honors the light in you. Peace.